Judge, I'm going to jump straight into our question so we don't waste any time. Nearly 3 decades into democracy, South Africa finally looks set to have its first female Chief Justice. Tell us how historic this moment is.
I mean, this is historic. You know, we're all delighted. A word of caution, though. This is a recommendation made by the JSC after holding interviews. It's still the decision of the president. Whether he will carry that recommendation forward, he has the discretion to make his own selection of the 4 or of anyone else. But so far, the president has opted to follow a very transparent process of consultation and participation of the public. This is very new. It's so exciting. I've got calls from many jurisdictions all over the world by judges and lawyers very interested on how the process worked. So the change here is historic, and let me acknowledge the role of the public. Civil society is always the one ahead of government in making changes. So here, Justice Maya's name was put forward by the public. She was one of many others, of course, but she was in the shortlist. So we're still hoping that she would be the ultimate candidate. It will be historic and exciting for us. It's the realization of the equality principle in our Constitution. The question we should ask, you know, we kept asking this under apartheid, why the exclusion of people of color? But since our democracy, why the exclusion of women? So it's exclusion born of patriarchy and a whole lot of prejudice thinking. So it's transformation, and it's the initiative of the public, so I welcome that.
Of course, Justice Maya has remarked that if President Cyril Ramaphosa sticks to the recommendation and appoints her as Chief Justice, her being a woman should be neither here nor there in that decision-making, and I can't agree more. She shouldn't be appointed to the position to achieve gender parity. She should be appointed on merit alone. That's the parity that we strive for. But that does beg the question why transformation in the judiciary in South Africa is not moving with the kind of alacrity that we would hope to see.
You know, I really liked all of Justice Maya's responses during her interview before the JSC. I know her. She's very well known internationally because both of us are members of the International Women Judges. What's new here in South Africa is it's no longer a secret process where the president picks a candidate. He's opened it up, so that's a good thing. And secondly, we don't know whether she would have been appointed in the process that they followed in the past. Why they were not, I don't know. As Justice Maya said, it's not about her being a woman, but that she's a good judge who happens to be a woman. But obviously the gender criteria was taken into account against women. Still is, the United States, which prides itself on its democracy, has never had a Chief Justice of their highest court, nor have countries, well-established democracies like India, done so. Now, we can do that in our country because the Constitution sets up the framework of equality and non-discrimination. I don't know if I heard your question, Amy, because I didn't hear it clearly.
You've answered it absolutely perfectly.
All right, then.
I want to go back a step and talk about the interview process, not to get bogged down again in the controversy and the issues that took place there. But some have suggested that at least 80% of commissioners on the JSC commission should be from the legal system to ensure that candidates are interviewed in line with the high position that they already hold and with some sense of the legal framework in mind. Some even going so far as to say politics has absolutely no place in this interview process. What would you make of those
Well, firstly, I would say we should be very proud that we, the public, heard the interviews of these 4 profoundly, highly qualified candidates. I think it's a very proud day for us. Secondly, the members of the JSC should know that the public is also listening and watching them. So, we are making our own judgment on some of the questioners who tended to put themselves on the stage. You know, we the public want to know the views of the candidate. We don't want to know the views of these people who are asking the questions. So very often it's descended into politics. People were revealing their prejudices. These are some of the unhappy features about our process that needs to be ironed out. So I would agree that to a large extent it should be composed of people who know the law, who know how the courts work, and who would be able to guide the public. I like the public participation. They can name candidates. But the process should be professional and respectful.
Should she be appointed, Justice Meyer has suggested some changes for the Constitutional Court, including possibly merging it with the Supreme Court of Appeals to increase its capacity. What do you think of some of her suggestions for change?
I would rather support what she and other judges who were interviewed said. They need a judicial colloquium. They need a forum where they could discuss this thoroughly with all stakeholders. That includes lawyers who appear before the judges, the financiers, because you don't want good ideas crushed because there's no money coming from the Treasury. So there has to be joint discussions. I have no expertise on what kind of changes are needed right now to expedite the court processes. But I can tell you, when I was president of the United Nations International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, we faced the same situation. In the 4 years. There were just 6 judges in 2 panels, and we moved slowly with the cases. Meanwhile, those who were arrested were in custody for as long as 5 years. That's a human rights violation, and it doesn't accord with justice. So we also asked for more judges. We split up so that single judges could hear applications. And as I listen to the judges being interviewed, I can see where they're going. They're also trying really hard. I know they want to respond to the complaints of the public, but from the other side, I can tell you the judges work really, really hard. It's such a heavy workload. They should, for instance, I would say there has to be more judges.